called it Monsanto Angela. Change? No, trying to look familiar. Something. Library? Oh. I don't know. My neighbor was talking.
Welcome everyone to Say No to Monsanto Public Forum. So happy to see everyone here today. My name is Ariane Glazer and I'm co-founder of GMO Free Arizona. And welcome. So I just wanted to let you guys know that you've got this wonderful piece of paper on your seat or a seat next to you. So this is about our community rally that's going to be happening on Tuesday to protest Monsanto coming into our precious Sonoran Desert here in Pima County. So please feel free to take extras of these and put them up in the community, give them out to your friends and family. And then from when you all come on Tuesday at 8 a.m. to our rally, everyone's coming, right? So then you've got your little sign that you can hold up at the rally. So although we do have extra signs as well, or you can make a homemade sign. So just want to let you guys know all about that. We have a few color posters also for the rally, to promote the rally. So if you are going to be going somewhere in the community today or tomorrow, and you can post this up as well, we really appreciate it. So I'm actually just doing this little hello, welcome. So excited for everyone to be here. I'm going to talk more with you later. But we really have our local Tucson hero who is going to be coming up and giving you the proper welcome. Does everyone know Melissa? Melissa Diane Smith, right over there. Melissa is a holistic nutritionist and the author of several nutrition books. Many of you might know her as the author of Going Against the Grain, and she's written a new book called Going Against GMOs. Did you bring your books with us today to show people?
Going Against GMOs.
Okay, so an awesome book. You guys can learn everything you need to know about GMOs here from Melissa's book. It's up here if you want to take a look. She's been giving presentations about the dangers of GMOs and pesticides since 2011, long time, and is been tirelessly speaking out about the serious threat posed by Monsanto here in our community and what we can do about it in many different parts of Pima County. Since November, she's gone to almost every board meeting, district meeting, meeting with the supervisors, meeting with educating people. I don't know how many education events. She's put in 1 million hours, and so she's our wonderful hero and leader here. So let's give it up for Melissa.
Thank you, Ariane, and thank you all for coming. Well, the first thing is, yay! Give yourselves a hand. Victory, right? Everybody said there was no way we were going to stop a tax break for Monsanto by Pima County. They just said it couldn't be done. Don't even try. I know when I first started to write on my blog about it, somebody wrote on my Facebook page, Monsanto is going to come and chew you up and spit you out. And here we are. We're still standing. They don't have their tax break. And they're probably pretty darn pissed about it, right? So just a quick review of what we've done in 3 months. It was exactly 3 months ago today that I was in this library doing the very first education event on November 19th. Here we are, February 18th, and think of how far we've come in 3 months. And you guys should really own that. It's very inspiring to me. When I first started writing about it, I wasn't sure exactly where we could get to, but I knew that was the right thing to do, and all of you have responded. And of course, 3 days after that meeting, we had a full house at the Board of Supervisors meeting 3.5 hours of statements. I mean, that's amazing, just to have an education event. 3 days later, we had a lot of you that I see in the audience going down to the Board of Supervisors, and they didn't know what hit them, really. They honestly were not expecting that. Of course, that pushed the vote back to February 21st, and they called for public meetings. And we also had people, all kinds of activists start to speak, at the district public meetings about Monsanto, and also here over on the right is Dr. Scott speaking to the Marana Unified School Board District meetings. We had people speaking at the Pima Community College board meetings. We had people speaking at JTED, the Joint Technical Education District. And honestly, that really is having an effect. Even some of the Marana school board members, the last time our activists were there, came and talked to our activists later and encouraged us to keep going. That some of them had done their research about Monsanto, and they were reconsidering their decision to get a gift from Monsanto. So it's even starting to spread, even in the hardest area what we've had to try to educate is Marana. And more people, when they just learn the basic facts about GMOs, pesticides, and what Monsanto does, is kind of a no-brainer, right? We don't want them here, and we're going to fight against it. So we had packed district meetings, and usually they were standing room only, people with lots of signs. And Monsanto question on tax breaks, herbicide, GMOs at Tucson public meetings. I mean, we raked them over the coals sometimes in those questions and answer periods. I particularly like this guy at the District 5 meeting, Richard Elias's public meeting, where he said he's 65, but if the supervisors don't protect us from Monsanto, he's going to make it his mission in life to have their jobs. He was really, really great to hear. So we get to this point, building and building and building, and we planned this week of action against Monsanto this week. I worked with GMO Free Arizona, Rachel and Ariane. We had all of our activists working on it. We had a plan, and they knew it. I put this up on my blog at the very late on Monday, February 13th. By Wednesday morning, so over Valentine's Day, I know that Richard Elias, the supervisor, has some assistant of his following my Facebook page. So they were seeing what was coming for them. They knew we were going to start to bombard their phone lines and their emails and their Facebook pages and their Twitter pages. And they knew that people like Zen Honeycutt, founder of Moms Across America, and for the rally, Tammy Canal, founder of March Against Monsanto, were coming here. And it wasn't but a day later that I get a call from Supervisor Richard Elias. I'm thinking, this is kind of strange. He's calling me directly. And he said, the county administrator, Chuck Huckleberry, just got a letter from Monsanto, and they're withdrawing their application for the tax break proposal. And it was like, you are kidding me. So we did it. We should own that. We should do a victory dance about it. Absolutely. And that's just in 3 months. And I can tell you that this movement is growing more and more all the time. The problem is that Monsanto still wants to come. So we have a victory. We know we can do amazing things when we band together. but we still have a lot more work left to do. We're going to talk about some of the problems with that greenhouse in just a moment. But, you know, the picture on the left, we did stop the tax break for poison profiteers. That's the good news. The bad news is our fragile desert cannot sustain Monsanto. We still have to work on that from all angles, and we have a plan to do that. So our campaign against Monsanto in Pima County continues, and here are some of the steps for our phase 2 of the campaign. Now, Rachel from GMO Free Arizona is going to talk a lot more about these, but the one I want to talk about right now is on this story that Monsanto drops property tax bid by Tony Davis that came out on Thursday. It specifically says that Monsanto will not proceed with its foreign trade zone application. To the best of our ability, and we're still trying to hash that out, we believe that they still have plans to apply for the foreign trade zone status, but they just dropped the tax break part of it. Now, I along with Manny Lopez and Amita Van Winkle, happened to have a meeting with Ramon Valadez scheduled on Thursday. This was to convince him to not vote for the tax break. But even after this news came out, we decided to still have the meeting anyway. We asked him if he knew if Monsanto was still going to apply for the tax break, for the foreign trade zone designation, and he said that to the best of his knowledge, he thought that they were. And then Amita Van Winkle called Daniela Gallagher at Sun Corridor Inc., which is the company that is facilitating that application. She also thought that they were still going to continue. So it means our tax dollars aren't being used to support Monsanto, which is good, but they're probably going to still try to get it, and we have to find out exactly. So far, it seems like they have not applied for it, but we have to stay on top of that and find out how to oppose that. And then we want to have other speakers come into Tucson, just like Zen Honeycutt from Moms Across America and others, so that this topic stays in the news and it's just constantly in the news where Monsanto can't get away from it and more people get educated and wake up. We also would like to try to boycott Roundup in the area, and of course just on an individual basis to buy organic foods as much as possible, and I think Zen is going to talk about that a little later on. And also Rachel will talk about some of these points later on. But we still have the rally on Tuesday. Now it did surprise us all, but we can use this as an opportunity to really fight for the type of food system and environment we want in our area. We have this golden opportunity where we put so much pressure on, and I think the supervisors were like, we cannot vote on that, and they probably told Monsanto to pull it. But now we have a chance to actually keep the pressure on and dictate a little bit more of the conversation. Before we were just reacting all the time, right? Monsanto's coming in here, we go to public meetings, we have to listen to PowerPoint presentations by the Monsanto representative. We're supposed to say what we're supposed to say in 3 minutes. It's very frustrating. Now, if we can have first the rally and then education events where we get more of the information that we know is accurate, that's going to totally change the scenario. The reason that Monsanto has gotten away with all that it's gotten away with is because the information has been kept from the public, right? We're going to shine a light on it, and they cannot run away from the truth. So I want to just talk a little bit about some things that the Monsanto representative mentioned. But before I do that, I do want to give you just a little bit of context, a little bit of background. You know, Monsanto has a history of not telling the truth about its products and business. Here in 2009, it was fined for saying that Roundup was biodegradable and left the soil clean, right? It'll be interesting when you see something that the Monsanto representative said here too, in just a second. Also, in 2015, Monsanto agreed to pay $600,000 for not reporting hundreds of uncontrolled releases of toxic chemicals. So those are just two examples. I could give you many more. And also keep in mind that Monsanto wants to take agriculture in totally the wrong direction. It recently said in a New York Times article that Monsanto has said the corn seed of 2025 will have 14 genetically modified traits and allow farmers to spray 5 different kinds of herbicides. So think about it. They want to move in here. That's what they want to work on. And that's what we want to prevent. Now that brings me to some of the things that Amanda McLaren, the Monsanto representative, said. And I could spend a long, long time talking to you about some of the things she said. One of them in Sharon Bronson's district meeting, she said, we're a seed company, not a chemical company. And people in the audience actually started to laugh. And they said, of course you're a chemical company. And she said, that was the old Monsanto. Then she repeated in several meetings that they were going to use little or no herbicides on their corn that they're supposed to grow in the greenhouse. And yet at this very first meeting that occurred here at the Oro Valley Library, she said herbicide tolerance was one of the main traits that they would be working on. So at the District 5 meeting, I said, I asked her, do you plan to use dicamba on the corn you're growing? She said, oh, we're going to use no herbicide or very little. And I said, in the District 1 meeting, you said that that herbicide tolerance was one of the traits that you're going to work on. We all know in this room that weeds are becoming resistant to Roundup, and that your company and many others are moving on to more and more herbicide tolerance from different herbicides. Are you trying to tell this audience that you're going to use no herbicides? And she said, oh, well, it really depends on what weeds develop, is it possible you might use dicamba? Yeah, it's possible. So that gives you an idea of how she just squirmed around the truth. The other thing that nobody's focusing on that really is concerning to me is she talked a lot about how they're going to be doing composting of the leftover corn material outside. And we have a state of California document that says that there's the possibility that pesticides will persist at harmful levels in composting. So that's something that, I don't think the Science Advisory Commission or anybody has been paying attention to. And probably the most laughable statement she made was when they bought 155 acres and they planted a 7-acre greenhouse, and people asked her, what are you going to do with the rest of the land? We don't have any plans for the rest of the land yet. So that's really pretty hard to believe, considering that in October, this Western Farm Press article quotes the guy, Herb Kai, that they bought the land from. And he says that they plan a greenhouse and traditional ground operations. And they also plan to have select farmers in the area field testing those experimental seeds. So this was in October, and then once some of us started to speak up against it, then all of a sudden Monsanto was saying, oh, well, you can't quote our, that was a farmer, that's not our spokesperson, we don't really know what we're going to do with the land. So this is why we don't trust Monsanto. And the property is less than 2 miles away from Marana High School. So we, all around Pima County, have been showing this movie called Molokai Mom, Standing Up to GMOs. These are pictures of the toxic red dust cloud. In other words, it's the dust is laced with pesticides, and it's coming from Monsanto's cornfields in Molokai. We do not want that to happen here, especially with that high school, just downwind from the facility. If you haven't yet watched Molokai Mom, or even if you have, I recommend that you watch it again before our rally on Tuesday morning. It's a half-an-hour movie you can find on YouTube. You can watch it, and it's very inspiring. And it really focuses on why we have to focus on our food sovereignty, or fight for it, our right to healthy food produced through ecologically sound and sustainable methods of farming. It's really, are we going to support Monsanto or the farmers that grow healthy food? So do we want scenes like this in Marana and Agra Valley? Or do we want scenes like this? This is the beautiful produce that's growing from Ann Lofield's farm. And I think the choice is pretty clear for our health, for our community's health, our quality of life. We have to continue this fight and fight like we've never fought before. So I'm going to now hand it over to Ariane, and she will introduce Farmer Ann Lofield.
Thank you, that was awesome, Melissa. So, really excited about the rest of our program today. Just wanted to let you know we have Ann from High Agriculture, what is it? High Energy, we don't need a lot of that. High Energy Agriculture speaking, and then we have Zen Honeycutt, our guest speaker from Moms Across America, and then Rachel Linden from GMO Free Arizona is going to talk a little bit about some strategy and action steps, and then we're going to open it up to discussion. Just wanted to share all of that with you. So Ann Lofield farms biologically with her son in Marana, northwest of Tucson. High energy agriculture vegetables are chemical free and nutrient dense. You can find high energy agriculture and Ann at the Santa Cruz River Farmers Market on Thursdays, Oro Valley Farmers Market on Saturdays, and Rito Farmers Market, is that how you say Rito? Farmers Market on Sunday. Ann has been one of the driving forces behind the opposition to Monsanto in Pima County since October. So we really are so lucky and blessed to have a farmer working with us on this issue. So take it away, Ann.
Good afternoon. I think I need some of that high energy today. I didn't get back from harvesting last night until 8 o'clock. And I got back from harvesting about 8 o'clock. Still had to feed my baby goat and myself and get to bed. And then I've spent 5 hours at a very busy market this morning, so I'm a little fresh.
Thank you for coming.
I'm glad to be here. This has been quite a fight, and we're not ready to stop yet. From the farmer's perspective, Monsanto coming to this area is just terrifying to me. Despite what they say, you cannot grow conventional and GMO seeds in the same area. unless they're different species, or, you know, like, so far they're not in very many of the vegetables that we grow. But there are a lot of corn is being grown here, and a lot more is going to be grown here. San Javier farm in a little south of here, they are focusing on all the native foods, the squash, the corn, the melons, some of those things that have been grown in this area for 4,000 years is all. They want to protect those crops from GMO contamination, and I totally support that. The most frightening thing for me is the pesticides, because my son's farm, he has a beautiful riparian area where we have all kinds of wild ducks and egrets and owls and all kinds of our quails that are the cutest little birds you ever saw. Back when he was just starting in 2010, cotton farmer about a mile away sprayed his crops with Roundup. And we have a whole lot we have a mesquite bosk on our property. 50 of the 30-foot tall mesquite trees, that's a big tree, 50 of them were killed from that spraying. We lost 2 or 3 pairs of the big owls at that time. Did see finally one owl back on the property just 2 or 3 weeks ago. Very happy to have him back, and hopefully there are some more on the way. Mesquite tree is a weed, essentially. There are a lot of places where they keep trying to get rid of mesquite trees too, and they've had a hard time doing it. Just go throw a little Roundup on it and you'll solve the problem. What it did to his crops, we had all these little spots all over the leaves. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. You know, what in the world? Is this an insect? Is it what? And then he remembered he'd seen a plane overhead a few days before. So we started investigating with the Department of Agriculture. They came out and took samples and tested them. It took about 3 months, I think, before we got any results back. It was poisoned by glyphosate. We had a couple of independent plant pathologists test it. They said, well, it sure was something chemical. They didn't know. They didn't test for the glyphosate. The agriculture department did. Takes the crop dusters have 30 days, I think it is, to report what they sprayed. Then it has to get in the database, which took quite a while too. Anyway, we lost the whole crop. We had to cut everything down and start over again. We did get a small settlement, but it was nothing compared to what we went through. And they also put my son through 2 years of giving them more and more and more information about totally irrelevant stuff. They were trying to find something to nail him with. So that's a real fear of ours, because you have the optimum planting season when plants all have a soil temperature that they germinate well. Spinach is terrible. It has a very short window of soil temperatures, so it's hard to get that to go if you miss that window. But anyway, so it is a real threat to farmers. And the other thing Monsanto keeps saying is they need to feed the world. It takes all of their GMOs to feed the world. They cannot. Their yields are going down. Their pesticides are going up, despite what they say. Regenerative farming, biological farming, there are all kinds of names. That is where you go back to the whole system. You need animals on the farm. You need to plant perennial crops. You need the annual crops, all of those things. And that completes a whole cycle of life. And you need all those little microbes and bacteria and all those things. You all think bacteria are bad, right? That's true. We cannot live without the good bacteria in our intestinal system is what keeps us alive and feeds us. And when you bring in the pesticides, it kills everything. It kills every bug, it kills all the, lost my train of thought, sorry. But it kills everything. And you need that system to keep everything in check and to provide the nutrients to the vegetables that you eat. And that's where you get your energy. So their system is not sustainable. Ours is very sustainable because we're building up the soil. We're sequestering the carbon in the soil where it doesn't affect the climate. It will enhance the climate instead of the other way around. We conserve water. We use drip irrigation. We use pond water. We collect rainwater and use that for most of the time. So we are really saving water. Also with the humus in the soil, it doesn't evaporate as fast. We spent 7-8 years building the soil. You would not believe how nice it is. Everybody kept saying today, my broccoli and cauliflower. I had a 4-pound head of cauliflower. They're huge, they're healthy, and they taste good. So that's where we have to go for the future of farming, is start teaching the biological, regenerative farming to our students rather than the chemical farming. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anne. In the back we have 2 information tables with a lot of information you guys can take home to learn more about GMOs and pesticides and how you can get them out of your life. And we're really excited about our guest speaker that we have today, who drove here from Southern California with her husband and with her amazing RV, which you guys can all visit after the talk today. We're very happy to have that here in Tucson. So Zen Honeycutt is the founder and executive director of Moms Across America. How many of you heard of that group, Moms Across America? Maybe some of you remember. It's awesome. That's great. Moms Across America is a national coalition of unstoppable moms. Zen is a mom, and she saw her 3 sons' health improve when they avoided GMOs and ate organic. And that's really amazing. If more of you have that kind of a story to share too, we'd all love to hear it. Please see Zen after. So Zen created Moms Across America to raise awareness about GMOs and their related toxins, to get them labeled and to offer solutions. We're all about solutions and being positive and creating a safe and healthy community. Moms Across America has over 400 leaders, have created more than 750 events in all 50 states and in the past 4 years. So it's really an amazing group, and we're just thrilled to have Zen with us today. Thank you, Zen. You guys are going to learn a lot. Yeah.
I'll get it. That's the clicker. Okay. And we can forward here to... Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I want to thank, first of all, Ariane Glazer. If anybody's organizing anything about GMOs, it's Ariane Glazer. So let's give her a round of applause. And also Rachel Linden, who you'll hear from later. I just want to say there's only a handful of women that I've had the opportunity to meet where I can count on them every time, if they're in a room full of people, to talk about the health aspects of GMOs and not just labeling through the past 4 years. And I could always count on Rachel Linden to be one of those people, to be courageous and fearless, organized, and to have integrity. So really want to acknowledge Rachel Linden and GMO-Free Arizona and all of the people who have been supporting GMO-Free Arizona. Thank you so much. So I want to just get a feel for who's in the room as well, and just for who here feels like you're pretty new to this. You're here to find out more. You're just sort of getting your head wrapped around this whole GMO issue. Who's pretty new to this? A couple of people? Okay, great. I'll be covering the basics for you. How many big people would say you're a food advocate and you've been doing this for about a year at least? A year? How many of you are hardcore activists, like 3 years or more? Awesome, great. How many of you are concerned about your children's health or your family's health? Yeah, pretty much everybody. Excellent, thank you for being here. Well, I want to say that we're not just here because we want to keep Monsanto out. We're not just here for that. We are here because we love our families. We love health, right? We love freedom. We want to keep Arizona clean and clear of toxins and poisons. So let's be present to the fact that we're here out of love. We really are. And all of you, I really acknowledge you for being here. Before we get started, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on myself and my family and tell you a little bit about how we got involved in this food movement. And you'll probably see why you want to keep Monsanto out of your family, right, your house, and off your table. And then I'm going to touch upon my experiences of Monsanto around the world, and you'll see why you want to keep keep Monsanto out of Arizona as well. And just FYI, we are live streaming on Facebook right now, and we'll be taking questions later. We have a microphone for that for you as well. So if you have some questions, please let me know at the end. Now, the information that I'm going to be giving you is very challenging information that has been compiled from dozens, if not hundreds, of experts over the course of 2 decades. So keep in mind, you may feel a little overwhelmed, and I ask you just to take one step at a time. If you do one thing when you leave here to improve your health or to keep Monsanto out of Arizona, our mission will be accomplished, and I want to thank you for that. So my intention is to have you informed and empowered to protect your families and the state of Arizona. I'll start with my kids. These are my 3 boys, Ben, Bodie, and Bronson. They have or have had food allergies to gluten, wheat, tree nuts, peanuts, milk, eggs, carrageenan, and food dyes. And my husband and I never had any of those food allergies. So this is not genetic, right? And one of them also had autism symptoms, which I will touch upon. Now, our children have well, let's see. One of them had a food allergy to pecans. And on Thanksgiving dinner, we almost lost him. He had the pecan, he's puffed up like a raspberry. We had to bring him to the hospital, and my son looked at me with that look in his eyes like, please, Mommy, just do something. And there was nothing that I could do except for pray. And thank God we did not lose him that night, but hundreds of children are lost every year now because of food. This is not normal. This is absolutely not normal. And here we are with his allergic reaction, with the signs of gut inflammation, which can lead to Crohn's disease, colitis, IBS, stomach cancer, autism, and autoimmune disease. I want to make it clear that the rash is not the problem. A lot of people want to just slap a cream on the rash and they hope it go away. They think it's the problem. The rash is actually the body's way of communicating that there is inflammation going on inside the gut. Okay? So this is something to be aware of and to know. Now I began to research about GMOs, and we found that Americans have the most GMOs in the world, and we have the worst health. GMOs are in 85% of America's processed foods. 85%. It's even more than what's on the slide right now. And GMOs are being developed. There's hundreds of now. 195 genetically modified crops have been approved by 59 developers in 40 countries, totaling 414 GMO events. And by events, that means that one food crop can be engineered to have 4 or 5 different traits, right? So each one is an event. Now, some of these are not actually in our food supply right now. For instance, wheat is not approved, rice is not approved, tomatoes were in and now they're out, but now they're trying to develop them again to be BT toxin tomatoes. But I just want you to be aware of the full scope and breadth of what they have currently already approved, and know that there are hundreds of more GMOs in the pipeline. What is a GMO? Well, GMOs are either genetically engineered to be a pesticide or to resist an herbicide. We call those BT for Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a toxin from the carcass of a dead grain caterpillar, which is injected into the DNA of the corn, and it spreads throughout every cell of that plant via a bacteria or a virus. So it's infected with toxin, so the corn becomes a registered pesticide by the EPA. That's one form of GMO. That's about 20% of the GMOs. The other one is HT. It's called herbicide tolerant, and that resists herbicides. You can spray as much herbicide as you want on that crop. All the weeds will die around it, but that crop itself will not die. It will resist the herbicides. So these two types of GMOs, you can obviously see, are a chemical delivery system to humans. So human beings are now currently consuming more toxins than they ever have in history. And of course, the manufacturers say that these chemicals are safe, and we'll get into how they're not in a little bit. The other type of GMO I'm calling DT, which is desired trait. GMO developers are working on a variety of different traits, including stress tolerance, growth yield, disease resistance, herbicide tolerance, insect resistance, modified product quality, and pollination control system. Gee, I wonder why we have to do pollination control systems. Could that be because they're killing off all the bees? So now they have to fix a problem that they caused in the first place? You betcha, right? So the GMOs that are HT, or they also call them RR, Roundup Ready, are engineered to withstand Roundup. Now Roundup is one of the brands. There are now 750 brands because glyphosate is now generic. So 80% of GMOs are engineered to withstand this one chemical. Think about the impact on the agriculture industry if we can get this chemical banned, if we can revoke the license of glyphosate. It is huge, and that's why there is so much fight to keep this chemical to be approved by the EPA. The EPA now allows glyphosate-based herbicide residues on 160 foods. You can see that list right on the EPA website. They allow residues from 0.2 parts per million up to 400 parts per million on grains, which are spread to our livestock. And it only takes 0.1 parts per billion to destroy the gut bacteria. So you can see parts per billion all the way up to parts per million. We're talking a huge amount of toxins which are destroying gut bacteria and have all other kinds of harmful effects on our food. Keep in mind that Roundup is also sprayed as a drying agent on non-organic foods at harvest. This means that wheat that is not GMO, lentils, garbanzo beans, peas, legumes, anything that needs to be dried, hops, barley, and beer, the majority of them, especially in the northern regions, are sprayed with glyphosate as a drying agent. So in order to avoid glyphosate in your food, you have to eat organic. That's pretty much what it comes down to now. So how did this start? Well, the chemical companies needed a new market after the wars, right, for their chemicals, so they decided to declare war on bugs and weeds. And our children now are the collateral damage. They're also convincing our community leaders, like our city councils and our schools and our neighbors, that it's safe to spray on backyards, on streets, on parks, on trees. In fact, 90% of the runoff that goes into our streams and rivers and reservoir comes from urban use. So there's a lot of Roundup that we could ban and get rid of right in our urban communities and make a huge impact on our reservoirs and our waters. I also want to add to this, I don't have a photo right now, but I just got a file from the Water Resources Department that a friend of mine asked for. They spray Roundup all around the reservoir. Then what happens? It causes the growth of pathogenic algae. Then they have to spray copper in the water. So I request that somebody from this community definitely contact your Water Resources Department and ask them what are they spraying and where are they spraying it. They have to give that information to you. And we can have them to stop causing the very problem that they're supposed to be stopping, right? By stopping the spray and the use of Roundup. They're also spraying it on trees and in invasive weeds. They've convinced the conservationists to spray invasive weeds. In fact, my family was sprayed by a helicopter with Plateau, which is a toxic herbicide, on the second day of our National Toxin-Free Tour when we were volunteering on the border of an organic farm next to a field that had all kinds of weeds on it. And so they are convincing the conservationists across the country to spray these chemicals by helicopter on millions of acres of our natural habitats and lands. You can see here the increased use of Roundup and glyphosate-based herbicides. It's the light gray. I don't know if I have the pointer that works here. It's the light gray right here, this area right here. You can also see that there's tons of other chemicals that are used. Atrazine right here causes male frogs to mate with each other. And this other one, no, I don't know the name of this other one, but there are tons of other chemicals as well. And you can imagine what might the result be with all of these chemicals mixed together. You know, that's not what they're testing. They're not testing all of these together. They're just testing one ingredient in the product. So let me tell you a little bit more about what glyphosate is. It's the declared, I gotta fix that, it's the declared active chemical ingredient because there are many active chemical ingredients in Roundup. It's the declared active chemical ingredient in Roundup and 700 other herbicides. It's a patented antibiotic. You can find this. It's patented. And that means that it destroys the beneficial gut bacteria and promotes the pathogenic gut bacteria. Now this is very important for you to understand. And when I got this was a huge aha moment. Because the pathogenic gut bacteria has on the outer walls of it something called lipopolysaccharides. This was explained to me by a doctor. And the lipopolysaccharides' job is to inform the vagus nerve in your gut to tell the microglia cells in your brain to go on attack. And when your microglia cells in the brain go on attack, your body creates, the microglia cells create glutamate. And glutamate is an excitotoxin. That excitotoxin excites your neuron brain endings and causes them to die or fail. Right? So then you have children with tics or stammers or Alzheimer's or early onset dementia or Alzheimer's happening. You have parts of their brain which are no longer working. The other thing about destroying the beneficial gut bacteria, which is extremely detrimental to our health, is that the beneficial gut bacteria is where tryptophan, serotonin, melatonin, and guarin are made. Without tryptophan, your body can't make serotonin. Without serotonin, your body can't regulate insulin. So what's going to happen if you can't regulate insulin? Diabetes. Wow, no wonder we have a tenfold increase of teenagers in the past 10 years alone, just of teenagers with diabetes. And the cost of diabetes will bankrupt the U.S. healthcare budget in 11 years. 11 years, just the cost of diabetes alone, if we don't do something about this. So, and also, of course, the gut bacteria is where melatonin and serotonin is made. That impacts your sleeplessness, your anxiety, depression, bipolar, even acts of violence. We have in the United States now a school shooting on average every other day. If we don't think that this is not happening because of the toxins that are in our food and not because of what gun laws, then we're totally off base. We have to look at the toxins that are in our food right now. This is an emergency. We have 1 out of 5 of our Americans have mental illness, and that is directly impacted by what's happening in the gut. This is an emergency, and any teachers, anybody out there that wants to know more about this, Food and Behavior, The Natural Connection, is by Barbara M. Stitt. She's a Lifetime Award-winning author. Food and Behavior, The Natural Connection. She proves that children and criminals that eat healthy, wholesome food, they reduce their criminal behavior. Also, glyphosate is a chelator. It means it holds or makes unavailable the vital nutrients of any living thing it touches, and it causes DNA mutations. Now, this is extremely important because we cannot fight cancer without certain vital nutrients. Our body's defenseless against them. So this is very important, and we now have 1 out of 2 males and 1 out of 3 females that are expected to get cancer in America today. I do not like those odds. Glyphosate is defined on the EPA fact sheet as a reproductive effector, meaning it's an endocrine disruptor and can cause liver and kidney damage. And we've had over 20,000 farmers in Sri Lanka die from liver and kidney disease, and they banned glyphosate in Sri Lanka. I'll talk more about that later. So it's very, very harmful. The World Health Organization, an arm of the UN, declared glyphosate a class 2 probable carcinogen. You've probably all heard about that. However, sorry, this picture is not quite clear. We can do something about it. My child's allergic reaction before and after going GMO-free for 4 months, you can't really see it here, but here he has a huge red line around his mouth. His lips are swollen, and this swelling lasted about 2 months. And over here, there's only a faint pink line underneath his lip after going GMO-free for just 4 months. Now, this is important to consider again because inflammation caused by allergies can cause stomach ulcers, which can cause stomach cancer. So I believe we're preventing him from stomach cancer by going GMO-free. And he's very, very proud of what he's done, as are we. Since we've been going GMO-free and organic, my son's allergies have gone from a 19 down to a 0.2. So he no longer has a life-threatening allergy. He's confident and happy, and his health is fantastic. And when if he ever goes to McDonald's for Boy Scouts, he won't eat a darn thing. He doesn't even want to go use the bathroom at McDonald's, right? He knows what's going on with the food supply, as do all of my sons, so I'm very proud of them. So in order to get the word out, I asked myself, how could I raise awareness with as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time? And I would like you to ask that question of yourselves here in Arizona. What can you do? What is your audience? Where are the large groups that you can reach? And I thought of 4th of July parades. Now I know it's very hot here, but I know there's other large events that you can attend, because one parade, 3 spectators deep, means for 3 miles, means reaching almost 40,000 people in one day. So you can please think about what are the large events that you can get to. So we reached, in the first event was 179 groups joined in parades. We reached thousands locally, millions nationally in a single day, and since then more and more groups are joining into 4th of July parades. And I urge everybody to think about all the causes in America, fracking and health freedom choice and all kinds. These are our parades, these are our hometowns. We can take America back right here, right with these parades. So get in your 4th of July parade. And as we were meeting people from around the country, we had these testimonials come in, not just my kids, but other people as well. This is Jennifer, who said, I had an awesome team of doctors at the Children's Hospital that could not figure out what was wrong with my daughter, who was getting sick after nearly every meal. The moms posting on Facebook that their children got better when they got off GMOs saved my daughter's life. That day, I went out and bought organic food, and she stopped throwing up. Now, obviously, not every child has this reaction to GMOs, right? It's sort of like smoking. Some people get lung cancer, and some people don't. However, the difference is that smoking is a choice, eating is not, right? We've had numerous testimonials from children whose autism have gotten better, whose allergies, whose asthma. And if you think about it, what we're talking about here is not just the future of these children, the health of these children. We're talking about their future. And that means our future as a state, as a country. Because look at Google, invented by 2 boys, right? Who knows what these children will contribute to our society? So we are here standing up against Monsanto today to stand up for the future of our society. I want to thank all of you for being here because protecting our children should be a paramount choice in all of our decision making in our communities and in our corporations as well. So the corporations, the GMO proponents said, oh, you have all these moms with these testimonials saying that the kids are getting better when they get off GMOs, but you have no evidence. So I said, okay, let's gather some evidence, okay? So I asked a farmer friend of mine to get glyphosate testing done through a lab friend that he knew, and this lab invested in glyphosate testing. So in 2014, for the first time in America, moms across America initiated glyphosate testing. And we had supporters send in on their own dime their urine and their tap water and even their breast milk. And these are the results. You can see here, my son's urine had 8 times the amount of glyphosate in it than was found in Europe. In my son. And we had been eating GMO-free for about a year. And this was a college student with cancer, 18.8 parts per billion of glyphosate. And a girl with birth defects over here, 14.6. So at this time, my son had an sudden onset of autism symptoms. And I took him to his doctor, who was an autism doctor, which he didn't have autism before that. I just went to him because of the spaced out vaccine schedule, which I was still doing then, unfortunately. And he tested very high for fungus. And I said, why are you testing him for fungus? And he said, because sometimes fungus and pathogenic gut bacteria can cause inflammation in the brain. And I thought, oh, that's what glyphosate does. So we had a 45-minute conversation about glyphosate, and he tested very high for C. diff, fungus, Clostridia. He had gut dysbiosis. He had 19 different food intolerances. He said, your son has holes in his small intestines. That is just devastating for a parent to find out that their kid has holes in their stomach, after trying to eat healthy for so long. Figure out, why could this be happening? And then it dawned on me that this son was not gluten intolerant. My other 2 sons were. So he was eating wheat. And now we know glyphosate is being sprayed with, wheat is being sprayed with glyphosate as a drying agent. In fact, in 2014, the amount of Roundup use went up 73% alone, the year just before he had these symptoms. So I thought that must be it. I eliminated wheat from his diet and went totally organic, even the meat he was eating. We repaired his gut by putting in kombucha, kefir and sauerkraut and healthy, probiotics and colloidal silver and all that good stuff. And within 6 weeks, we retested him. His glyphosate levels were no longer detectable, and his autism symptoms were gone and have never come back. So, and by the way, he had not had a vaccine in 5 years when those sudden autism symptoms came up. So I think this whole issue with autism is in conjunction with many different toxins that come from many different sources. So we also did glyphosate water testing, and we found here that the water in upstate New York, which is supposed to be so fabulous, was 3 times higher than glyphosate than is allowed in Europe. And out in my tap water, it was 0.085 parts per billion. Now it takes 0.1 parts per billion to destroy gut bacteria, so this is very close. But you also keep in mind that he would have had to have drunk 9 swimming pools of water that day in order to have the levels that he had in his urine. So it wasn't coming from the water. It's definitely coming from the food. Here we have it in breast milk. The levels were 166 parts per billion down here in a woman who did not know about GMOs and glyphosate. She ate conventional American food. All of these other women knew about GMOs and glyphosate. They were Moms Across America supporters. These two confessed to eating out quite a bit at restaurants. So keep in mind that there are GMOs and glyphosate in the oils when you eat out at restaurants. Now, of course, we were very upset about this. This level is 3,000 times higher than was found in Seralini's study to cause sex hormone changes in rats and all kinds of organ damage. So we called the EPA, and 10,000 moms called the EPA in 3 days. And they have said that they are going to test or are testing for glyphosate in breast milk. We got a fully funded study of 200 women in breast milk, which is happening right now, for glyphosate in breast milk. And keep in mind, that's how DDT and PCBs were banned. It was found in breast milk. So we are on the pathway to that, but it's been a couple of years now, and the EPA is still dragging their you-know-whats on getting something done about this. We also found glyphosate in Pediashort feeding tube liquid that is given to children with cancer, 1,000 times higher than was shown to destroy gut bacteria. 70% of the immune system is in the gut bacteria, and they're destroying it with glyphosate and Pediashort. This is criminal, and Abbott completely denies this. But since then, they've come up with a non-GMO formula, right? They deny it, but they've come up with a non-GMO formula. They don't have the slide update for it, but we have also tested 5 childhood vaccines because vaccines contain GMOs. And if you have GMOs in there, you're likely to have glyphosate, right? All 5 were positive. The MMR was 25 times higher than the rest of the vaccines. And the MMR is the one that the CDC employee admits himself has had increased reactions of autism, especially in African American boys. So further testing needs to be done of glyphosate in vaccines, but we can expect it to be confirmed just as it was with the methodology that we used, which is called ELIJAH. The FDA confirmed ELIJAH methodology study with their mass spectrometry methodology in all of the other food samples that were done, like honey and all of that. It's been confirmed. So we expect them to confirm this, but of course they have responded that they have not responded about testing at all. They have not mentioned it in their letter to us that they will test at all. They are completely ignoring it. So here's many of the other foods that have been found to be positive for glyphosate. This is just a smattering of them. In fact, Tony Mitra from Canada just received 7,000 food samples. If you go to tonu.org, he has an ongoing log of all of the different types of foods that he's transcribing these test results. And he's found things like 1,000 to 3,000 parts per million of glyphosate on lentils, on white beans, on black beans, on gluten-free food. I'm very sorry, gluten-free food has high levels of glyphosate because I believe the garbanzo beans, and also some organic as well does have glyphosate on it because of drift and rain and irrigation water, although the organic levels were much lower. Like for instance, 4 parts per billion instead of conventional foods was 89 or 1,000 or 6,000. Wheat had 6,000 parts per billion of glyphosate. So keep in mind, again, that eating organic is the best option. Now, Monsanto, I want to talk about Monsanto shareholder meetings here for a minute because they of course refute everything that we're saying, that this is harmful, and we have hundreds of safety studies, and that we're sustainable and we're feeding the world and all of that. And if you haven't watched this movie, please do, The World According to Monsanto. I had the opportunity to go to speak at the Monsanto shareholder meeting representing John Harrington Investments Group, which had a proxy put forth to get, for instance, say, a farmer on the board of the world's most sustainable agriculture company. And so I, of course, was very happy to go, very nervous as well. But, my timer is not here, so I need somebody to tell me when I have 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, great. So I go into the Monsanto shareholder meeting. This was 2 years ago, 2015. 1,200 people. Wall Street Journal is there. I'm going to meet Hugh Grant, that's the unfortunate name of the CEO, and the most hated CEO in the world. And he comes up to me, and he shakes my hand, even though I'd rather not do that. When in Rome, you shake his hand, and I say to him, Mr. Grant, Moms Across America is looking forward to the day when your products no longer harm our families and our children. And he says, we're always looking forward, but we have science on our side. And I said, oh, we have science on our side that your products harm our children as well. And I'd like you to consider, what is the impact on nationally, he said, and globally. He wanted to point out his products are global, right? I said, yes, what is the impact globally if you're wrong? What's the impact? And he said, well, if you're wrong, you're worrying an awful lot of people. And I said, but if I'm wrong, the only impact is that people are spending a little bit more money for organic food. And there's nothing wrong with organic. And I said, it takes a big man to make a big and powerful company, but it takes an even bigger man to acknowledge when something's not working and go in a new direction.
Yeah.
And that meeting was phenomenal. I got up 4 times and got to say everything and anything that you moms would say if you could get up in front of Monsanto. And it was a real honor to do that. And I think the shareholders heard it because they passed a proxy, 51%. And that is historic, that usually only get 5 to 19% of a vote. And that year their stock dropped 34%.
Wow.
Now, I can't say that was just to do, with me being there. There's also the cancer, thing and the weed resistance and all. There's a lot of efforts, March Against Monsanto, a lot of things happening. But the shareholders did not want to invest in Monsanto anymore. The next year we sent back 3 leads from Hawaii and Rachel Parent from Canada and one from the Ann Temple from the US, and they all spoke about very important issues. What happened this year when I went back? No more 1,200 people. There were 60 people in the room.
What?
No media, right? Now they have to merge with Bayer in order to exist.
They're going under.
They are scrambling. I want to be clear. They know that this toxic chemical system is failing. In fact, all of the chemical companies, which I went to that year in 2015, Syngenta, Bayer, Dow, and Monsanto, I spoke at all of their shareholder meetings or met with their officials. All of them said they are moving in a softer direction. They are moving away from toxic chemicals, apparently. That's not completely true. There's dicamba, right? But they are scrambling, right? They're trying to find a substitute for Roundup, and this dicamba is not working. It already has all kinds of lawsuits out against them, all kinds of states, which Arkansas is even trying to ban it. So there's all kinds of problems happening. But I want to be clear. They are scrambling. They know it's not working. We know Kodak had the technology for digital cameras for 20 years. They went out of business. They didn't use new technology, and I've pointed that out to them. So they need to move on, right? And they need to move on to something else, I don't know, solar, cleaning up garbage, whatever, but not harming the soil. And that's the point. They need to move on. They have the resources to do something else besides polluting the planet. Now,
Dicamba is 2,4,5-T or 2,4-D?
Dicamba is different from 2,4-D. Yeah, it's separate. It's a different chemical, and it's been around for 40 years, and it is very, very toxic. And here's the problem with dicamba. They're talking about drift. It's not just drift. They spray these chemicals on hot plants, and they dissipate. The chemicals dissipate. The chemicals go up into the air, moisture particles collect around it, and it comes down as rain states away, hundreds of miles away. So, it's not just drift. It's in the rain as well. Okay, so I want to mention that the Monsanto shareholder meetings are not the only place where they're trying to rule the world through the food supply, right? It's power. This is a cover of the Borlaug Dialogue. This is the World Food Prize event that happens around October 16th or so each year. And look what it says down the bottom. It says, "Let food be thy medicine." This is their next direction. They know that toxic chemicals are not working. So what are they trying to do now? Biofortify the food. They're trying to make it better than God and nature made it. They're trying to give it more vitamin A, more vitamin C, whatever, more potassium. And they're trying to say they need GMOs. And Africans, this whole booklet is filled with African leaders from around the world. They're using Africa as a football right now. They're trying to go in there and say, you have the right to have the advanced technology that that other countries have. Here's Malawi, Ghana, all these other different countries, right? So at this conference, Google's there, Starbucks is there, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is there, Chelsea Clinton, all of these different organizations are there. I got up to speak in one of the smaller seminars. They didn't like that. So at the bigger seminar, they cut off the mic and they said, we're only going to take questions by Twitter. Wow. So they will do whatever they can to circumvent our voices, but they know that we're here and that we will not stop, right? We will not give up. And I'm telling you, they are more afraid of the voice of the mom and women than anything else. Because we make 90% of the household choices in our homes. And so we need to know our power and to get out there and to speak up at any opportunity we can. We need you to be the 1 in 1,000, right? Even if everybody is against you in the room, we need you to speak up. And that your voice makes a difference. So people have asked me, aren't you afraid of what's going to happen? I'm more afraid of what's going to happen if we don't speak up, frankly, really. And so we need everybody to have that kind of courage and to get out there and speak up about it in whatever situation you have. So here I went to the Monsanto tribunal in The Hague in Amsterdam. And I didn't speak at the tribunal because they only had people speaking that had lawsuits out. And I spoke at the People's Assembly later about activism and GMOs and glyphosate and everything. But I want you to know that the first 2 people that got to speak up at this international conference were moms.
Wow.
2 moms whose children had severe birth defects from exposure to Roundup. They had used Roundup on their farms or on their property at the exact moment when the esophagus was forming, and both of them, their children had esophageal birth defects. One mom, her child was going through his 60th surgery. And this is happening all around the world. The next woman that got up was a Kona farmer, from Kona coffee farmer, and she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The lawyer representing her has over 500 plaintiffs now. In a year, he expects to have 5,000. He expects it to double after that. There are so many people who have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma who have had exposure to Roundup, and the connection is very real. It's a 50% increase risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma if you are exposed to Roundup. Of course, with no warning on the label, right? The next person to get up was a farmer from Sri Lanka, which I mentioned. In Sri Lanka, they had 69,000 people that were harmed from glyphosate farming. 20,000 died, and 5,000 were women and children who had no exposure on the field at all. It was just the farmer coming home to hug them, or it was in the water. So this is something that impacts, widespread communities. Down in South America, they have the highest amount of use of this. There were speakers there from Argentina, Brazil, Peru, from all over the world. And of course they say, Monsanto says their products are safe, right? So I asked, really? And I did a Freedom of Information Act to see those studies. What, are they really safe? One of the studies was on white shrimp. And that study said no mortality level was 5.2 parts per million. Higher than 5.2 parts per million, and the shrimp died. This was in 4 days, exposure in the water. Okay, what's the size of a white shrimp? It's the same size as a 6-week-old fetus. And what's in our womb? Dark, salty water, right? Well, there's a study that shows that Roundup remains viable, glyphosate remains viable in dark, salty water for 315 days. And 25 parts per million are allowed on sugar. How many women get sugar cravings while they're pregnant, right? Or wheat, they want to eat bread. So we have to consider the contamination that's happening to our pregnant mothers and the birth defects which follow, which have been directly correlated in pig studies by Ib Peterson from Denmark. 30,000 pigs he had, repeatedly exposed them to glyphosate spray grains and then not glyphosate spray grains. Their miscarriage, infertility, sterility, and stillborn birth rates went up 30% every time he introduced levels of glyphosate on the grains, which are lower than are in our foods. And guess what we have in America today? A 30% rate of miscarriage and infertility, sterility in America today. 30% of our young couples are losing their babies. This is about the future of our country, make no mistake about it. Now, around the world, we know Monsanto's poisoning us. You can't see this picture, but right here, this is New Zealand, where we did a speaking tour, and all along the road, beautiful green, like forest, tropical forest. All along the road here, 4-foot swaths of Roundup. 4 thousands of miles. We drove from the northern tip to the southern tip of New Zealand, all along the way. Brown swaths and you know why? Because the government buys it. They don't allow GMOs in the country. But the GMO companies which make GMOs said, well, then we're going to go after them with chemicals. So they gave a deal to the New Zealand government and said, you buy Roundup for the sides of your roads, we'll give a deal to your farmers. And guess what they convinced the farmers? If you spray Roundup on your grass and kill the old grass, and then you plant new grass, the new grass will be more nutritious for your cattle and your sheep. So this grass-fed beef and lamb from New Zealand, they're eating Roundup grass. And this is why Monica Kruger found glyphosate in organic meat as well. So I'm very sorry to break this terrible news to you. Now, this doesn't mean that everybody does it, right? There are a lot of farmers that are finding out about this, they're stopping it, but you have to know your farmer to know whether or not they're doing this. I saw the fields myself sprayed with Roundup on a cattle and sheep farm. So around roadsides, parks, playgrounds, and some grass-fed meats as well. Now, pets and horses are also being poisoned. These are all of the pet foods which have had levels of glyphosate in them. There are thousands of pet owners which have sued Purina based on cancers and tumors in their dogs. And also, we're going to be getting more information out about this, but a vet assistant and horse trainer has brought to my attention, and there's an article out there that shows that 37 racehorses died of on the racetrack during the middle of a race of heart attacks in 2011 and 2013. It was 19 alone in 2013, which is the year that they raised the level of glyphosate residues allowed on food from 2 to like 35 times higher, tons more glyphosate. And their feed is 75 to 100% GMO with high levels of glyphosate. There are studies to show that glyphosate can impact the liver. When the liver is impacted, the heart valve can be impacted, and that can cause a heart attack. So if there are horse owners around here, please get the information out to them. They must give their horses food that is not sprayed with glyphosate, and get involved and be vocal people about stopping this in Pima County. So here we have states and cities that have sued Monsanto for PCB pollution 40 years after the ban. Is this the future that you want 40 years from now? Do you want to be one of these states? Look at this. Alabama, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Michigan, and 7 other states sued Monsanto and won $47 million. That's a drop in the bucket to them, $47 million, right? For dumping 50 million pounds of PCBs in their soil.
It's less than $1 million a pound.
Do we think that they're not going to do that here? Oh, you betcha they think they're going to do that here. They think the desert's just a place to dump their toxins, right? So currently suing Monsanto is San Diego, Berkeley, San Jose, Oakland, California, and Spokane, Washington. Do we want Arizona to be next? No. We need to tell the city council members and the governor and the mayors around Arizona that Arizona cannot afford Monsanto. We simply cannot afford them. America cannot afford Monsanto. The amount of healthcare costs that they will incur upon this state and upon this country far outweigh the cost, the benefit of their toxic chemicals. And think about, too, the land that they're buying and what they're going to be doing on that. They're not growing food for your local people. They're going to be spraying toxins to see what genes they can manipulate to withstand more toxins. And they're also going to be developing, by the way, think about this one, RNAi genetic sprays. They're already doing this. This is genetic material that they're spraying on weeds so that something will shut down in the weeds and die. Genetic material, RNAi genetic material. What happens when that dissipates into the air and comes down as rain? Do we want RNAi rain? What's going to happen if we've got rain that's raining down genetic material that's shutting down life? Okay, this cannot happen, and it has to be stopped. So we ask you to please protect your community, get Monsanto out, come out on Tuesday, February 21st at 8 o'clock, bring your friends and family. Really, this is urgent. This is about the future of your community. Also, please contact the EPA to revoke the license of glyphosate. And I have to mention here again, I want this to be really clear. Anybody who tells you that these chemicals are safe is not informed. The EPA's policy, and I have been there myself and spoken to the EPA several times, and in front of the entire crew of scientists from around the world, the director of the Pesticide Review Board and his team admitted to me. I asked him, do you have any lifetime animal studies, long-term animal studies on the final formulation of Roundup? They said no, not that we're aware of. None. All they have is the one declared active chemical ingredient. So they test one ingredient in the formulation, or they require safety studies. They don't do any testing. They require safety studies of the one ingredient in that final formulation and then declare the whole lot of it safe. That's like saying, oh, the vanilla in a vanilla cake is totally safe, but your kid with an egg allergy or a wheat allergy or nut allergy can eat that cake and they're fine. That's totally wrong. It's totally unfounded. You guys get that? There's no safety study proof at all that these chemicals are safe. They're spraying on us, any of them. So this whole policy has to be uprooted, and who knows how effective they're going to be able to be in the next 4 years, but we have to speak out that this assessment that they're doing right now, they should come out with the results this year. They've promised that they are coming out with results, and we can still impact them. So please write this phone number down and contact Neil Anderson, and when they have the comment period that's going to come out in a few months, please spread that out and get thousands of comments on their website.
Well, we still have an EPA.
While we still have an EPA, yeah. So, and I know I'm running out of time, but do you want me to cover a little bit about what we can do about this in our homes?
Yes.
Okay, so what can we do while we're getting Monsanto out of Arizona, right? What can we do in our families, in our homes to keep our families safe? Well, first of all, you can test your water or your urine for glyphosate. You can go to Moms Across America. We have a couple of labs there listed. We don't get any money from that. It's just, a reference of the labs that are out there. Or you could just assume that your water has glyphosate in it, if you want to save the money, and get yourself reverse osmosis and put minerals back into the water. You have to put trace minerals back in, otherwise the reverse osmosis water will leach out the calcium out of your bones. So please do that. Test for fungus, glyphosate, and pathogenic bacteria in your urine. Especially if you have children with behavioral health issues. That is a sure sign. If their urine is stinky, if they're wetting the bed, if they have behavioral issues, it's not just a phase, get them tested. Eat only organic, and you can eliminate 90% of the pesticides in 1 week and 100% in 2 weeks. That's been shown by a Swedish study. There is hope. You can eliminate these pesticides from your body. Please avoid gluten, sugar, and dairy during any kind of fungal or yeast or bacterial treatment if prescribed, because that only feeds more bacteria. So it's a tough diet for a little while, but believe me, it absolutely pays off. My son didn't eat any sugar during the holidays, the whole holidays, when he had the autism symptoms, and his autism symptoms went away. And add non-GMO vitamins and minerals and fermented foods like sauerkraut, kombucha, kefir, and kimchi into your diet. 1 tablespoon of sauerkraut has 1 trillion good bacteria. So if there's nothing that you take from this, please at least just add sauerkraut, organic sauerkraut, into your diet every day, okay? Detox. We have some products in the back table. You can see, I think everybody should be on a daily detox. I'm sorry, it's not just a promotion to sell more products, although we can't keep Moms Across America going unless we have fundraisers. But we only have fundraisers of products that work. Primary Detox is thousands of years of science behind it, and it's a very good product, and it's very easy and affordable. We also have Restore, which is a product from 50-million-year-old shale, and what it has been shown to do is you've got your tight junctions of your gut, right? And glyphosate pulls them apart, causing leaky gut. Restore zippers them back up together. It's from Mother Earth, it's totally natural, and when you put glyphosate back on again, nothing happens. It doesn't break apart. So it can protect your system from the impact of glyphosate. Again, and it's totally natural. And then if you want to reduce inflammation, try our product Active H2, which is molecular hydrogen, which is 2 H's, and the most common free radical is an O and an H. And they're looking for another molecule to grab onto. So they grab onto one of the H's of the H2 and become H2O. So if you know anybody with arthritis or inflammation or memory issues or whatever, that's a great product to try. So these are just some things you can do. And then people say, but wait, organic costs too much. Well, I ask you to really look at that, does it? Because if you buy a 5-pound bag of organic potatoes, cut them into French fries and cook them at home, your family can save $917 a year compared to buying fries at a fast food place twice a week. And that's just the fries. So you can eat organic for less money at home than eating the standard American diet. Most Americans eat out 3 to 4 times a week. You cut that back just twice and you're saving yourself thousands of dollars. And if you think organic food costs too much, also consider this. That, of course, all this junk food, which is nutritionally, non-existent, costs way more money. And farm subsidies are also coming out of your tax dollars. It's now up to $60 billion a year for GMO farming. The cost to treat resistant and bacterial infections, diabetes, chronic health issues, the cost of pesticide cleanup, The loss of exported markets, and of course, damage to our children's bodies and brains is incalculable. So organic really is the bargain. But what are the farmers going to use that are not using Roundup? Oh no, they're going to use dicamba or more toxic chemicals and continue to poison us. No, they don't have to. Farmers are ingenious. We have faith in our farmers that they can farm as has been done for thousands of years. Like Anne has pointed out, they can grow food without toxic chemicals. And one of the ways that they can do that, besides all kinds of permaculture, mulch, perennials, cover cropping, right? One way is if they have to spray something, is to spray steam. There's a great company called Weed Technics that has a non-toxic steam weed control system, and it kills the weed. It destroys a tiny bit of the soil on the top. It doesn't go 6 inches deep like some people think. And then the soil becomes more fertile, actually, because the weed has died and the microbes come and eat that weed, right, and put more microbes back into the soil. And it is a very good company that is developing jobs also in California. They're out of California, and we highly recommend them. Also, vinegar in your backyards, vinegar, dish soap, and boiling water. And scouts, Boy Scouts need community projects. They can pull weeds. So you don't need to spray Roundup around your colleges and your schools and your streets and your sidewalks. So how to create a healthy community. And I say healthy community because it's not enough for my sons to eat organic, because their future spouses are out there somewhere, right? And your children's future spouses are out there somewhere. And we would like them to be healthy and happy and be able to reproduce someday and have healthy families. So how do you do that? Number one, acknowledge that enough is enough. Like with my son, when he said, Mom, I want all my allergies to go away someday, I thought, oh, that's never going to happen. And then I realized how I sounded to myself, I thought, wait a second, what if something could happen? And it got to that point where the allergies on his mouth were happening so often and so much, I thought, you know what, I don't care if we have to eat birdseed. We're going to do something about this. So I said to my son, will you be my partner? Like, would you like to, a year from now, be able to eat a slice of pizza at a birthday party if you want to? He said, yes. And I said, well, we have to do something about that. We got to heal your gut. So would you be my partner? Would you eat green drinks or, go to different kinds of adult? He said, yes. So he promised to be a partner with me, right? And so that was the moment, though, when I said, I'll do anything, right? So acknowledge enough is enough. And for some of you, just check in with yourselves, because for some of you, you still like it the way it is. You still want to be able to eat fast food. You still don't want to have to do anything about going to city council meetings, right? It's still okay with you. So you really got to check in. Is enough enough? Are you done with the system the way it has been, okay? Number two, wonder what if. What if his allergies could go away? What if Arizona could be GMO-free? What if Arizona could be Monsanto-free, right? Well, what would that look like? What would that be like for your city, or in your state? And number three, create partnership. These groups, all these different groups, create partnership with them. Create partnership with farmers and with chefs and with school teachers and with principals and with mayors, and just have conversations with them and gather those relationships and be strong. In Cymru, is that how you say it? In the UK, CMYRU, it took 6 people to get that entire country GMO-free. They were the first country. A doctor, a farmer, a lawyer, a mom, a scientist, like that. 6 people. So create those partnerships. And number 4, this is the hardest one, make a promise. I said to my son when he said he would be my promise, that I promise you, you will get better. And that was hard for me because I didn't know how. But I knew that if I made a promise to him and to myself, the actions that I would take would be much more different than if I didn't make a promise. You guys get that? If you put yourselves on the line, I promise to achieve X by Y, date, your actions will be different. You'll get off your duff, you will make those phone calls, you will make those emails, and so will your community. They will be inspired by your promise, and they will take action because of your commitment. So make a promise. And lastly, why you? Well, sometimes I quote Gandhi or Martin Luther King, but I really love to tell this story about my mom. So it was my son's first day of life at home, and I was holding him, and he was tiny and pink and weighed almost nothing. And I looked at him in awe, and I said, Mom, isn't he amazing? Aren't all babies just amazing? And she looked at me and touched me on the shoulder, and she said, we all still are. We all still are, right? And I realized that I didn't think of myself as amazing as babies. And I realized that that was a choice. I have a choice on how I think about myself. You have a choice on how you think about yourself. You have a choice on how you think of other people. So if you see yourself as small, if you see other people as small, you're not going to ask very much of them, are you? right? So it's a choice how you think of yourself. So I ask you to see yourself as amazing, see your community as amazing, see your leaders as amazing. Don't be the one to say, oh, they'll never do that, okay? That just puts up a wall. We don't want to hear any more of that. That's not going to happen. That's not allowed. Can everybody agree? That's not allowed. Okay. We're going to look at how can that happen. What steps could we take to make that happen? And that is going to cause a transformation in this community and a paradigm shift where Monsanto's products are not needed. Where you have such a thriving community. And how is that going to happen? One mom who has just 10 or one supporter, one granddad, one student who has 10 people over, and they pass out 100 of our flyers, or any flyers, right, about GMOs and glyphosate, and reaches 1,000 people. Those 1,000 people then switch over to organic and buy $200 worth of organic food a week. That's a $10 million shift to organic food in your local community. With the local organic farmers like that, would that help out the farmers markets?
Absolutely.
Right? That would cause an environment where their products are not needed, not wanted, and they will not have to do business anymore, right? And there's lots of other tactics. I'm sure Rachel is going to talk about them. But I want to let you know that I promise that Moms Across America is your partner in getting your communities healthy and having freedom in this community, that we will not stop. We will not give up, because the love for our children will never end. And I want to thank you very much. And I have some gifts for Ariane and Rachel. I'm going to make sure that they get them up here. This is music. It's called the Eatles, the Summer of Grub. It's music all about GMOs. And so make sure when you have your get-togethers, play some fun music and dance as well. Have some fun, okay? So here you go, Ariane, and we'll give it to Rachel later. Are you asking questions now, or is Rachel on? Good. Great.
Another big hand for Zen. Isn't she amazing? So we really want to open it up to questions and discussion, but we have Rachel Linden here from GMO Free Arizona, and she is going to talk for just a couple of minutes about some strategies and some action steps, and then we're going to bring up all of the speakers, Melissa and Ann and Zen, and we're going to open up to discussion and questions.
I'm just asking, what was the name of the book she said she's bringing to the library?
It's a video series called the GMO Trilogy. So, and I actually, GMO Free Arizona actually has some items that we can donate to the library too. Good idea, Zen. Okay, so Rachel Linden co-founded GMO Free Arizona 5 years ago. 6 years ago. And she has been working tirelessly across the country, actually, to educate people about the dangers of GMOs to our health and environment, and what we can do to have healthy, safe communities and avoid GMOs. So she's also a permaculturist. She's studying to be an herbalist now. She's a mom. I could go on for like 20 minutes about how wonderful Rachel is, but here she is.
Thank you. Could you just follow me around like in the morning and tell me how great I am? My day would be fabulous if I could do that.
You're amazing.
Well, thank you.
Here?
Thank you. I flew in, actually. So I grew up in Arizona. I lived here for 30 years, and I've farmed in Arizona. I've run a small business in Arizona. I sold real estate. I ran my own real estate company, and I got really, really sick. And I was sick for probably about 10 years, maybe even a bit longer than that. And I went from doctor to doctor to try and figure out why a wide variety of health issues I had, from my teeth falling apart, skin rashes that came and went, bouts of just severe chronic fatigue. My hair was falling out. I got diagnosed with a thyroid disorder. I found that I just was just all kinds of, I don't want to even bore you with the bathroom details, okay? It was actually a nutritionist that ended up telling me, hey, you're probably allergic to wheat and dairy, and it's because of this GMO thing. And so I started moving away from gluten and dairy, which was really hard to do because I'm Italian. And so like pizza and pasta, that's like, is there another food group that, besides wheat and dairy?
And so that was a hard transition. And about the same time, I actually met Ariane. And I went GMO free right after meeting Ariane. She told me about it. But it took me like 3 or 4 days in front of a computer to really figure out what was a GMO, what were they, how do you qualify it, how can I put my arms around it. And I came across Jeffrey Smith and the Institute for Responsible Technology, which, shout out to Jeffrey. He's an amazing man. He's been doing it a lot longer. He's sort of like the father of the movement. We all kind of like, you know, if it weren't for him, the bulk of this room would never know. We would not know what we know, you know? And the furthering work from Zen, Ariane, and there are literally dozens of national groups that are all over this issue, and they each have their own little niche, all the way from baby food, all the way up to soil health, and you know, those are some tireless souls. And generally speaking, the person who gets into this movement is either has a sick kid, or in my case, I'm a lucky one, it was me. I was sick, right? But taking 3 or 4 days to actually figure out an issue, and submerging myself in it, I thought, this has got to be, why is this not front page news? Why is this not on the front of every newspaper, on TV? So we started throwing events. We were like, people need to know about this. This is very important. Like, look what taking those foods out of my diet and going organic, look what my health improved. Like overnight, seasonal allergies went away. All the things that I thought were totally unrelated to my diet started, you know, slipping off, you know, almost immediately. It was crazy. Issues I had dealt with, prescription drugs I didn't need anymore, prednisone, my inhaler, my albuterol. I used to have to sit on a nebulizer every night. Thought I would dream I was drowning because I couldn't breathe. And so, yeah, and I know a lot of you are sort of like nodding, like, yeah, we've had that same problem at home here too. And in Arizona, hey, you know what? We've got dust. We have a lot of other natural things we have to deal with too, on top of all of these food allergies and seasonal allergies. So, you know, this is a very, you know, today you have to really guard your health. And so that's what took me to finding out about this GMO thing. I thought there has got to be a better way. We have got to go public with this. And there came GMO-free Arizona. And then we started pulling together and realizing there were people, great people all across the state actually working on this in their own towns, right? Like Melissa from Tucson and Shay from Prescott, and there were people up, and even in the very northern part of the state. So I started driving around. I wanted to meet every one of them, right? I wanted to see if they knew what I knew, and I wanted to know what they knew, and what could we do to help each other, and how can we get the message out in our communities. And I wanted to sort of give hope that it's not just something we're doing in our local community. We're working on this at the state level too. And so every level we have to really be considerate that this is important. And so we founded GMO-free Arizona, and our mission is really public education. We do advise on policy. So people always say, Rachel, you should take on labeling. Rachel, you should take on a ban. Well, that's not really in my wheelhouse. Education is, right? So we want to encourage other people to take on those actions and help them as much as we can. And I know we've had in the past the opportunity to do labeling, and in the past, opportunity to do sort of bans and this sort of thing. But I want you to know that if we don't stand up at the local level, you will have no opportunity to be heard. Because there's been preemptive legislation working at every possible level to take away your rights at the county level, at the municipal level, to do any kind of ban, label. There's a federal ban on labeling right now. I mean, that just got put in over the summertime. That's the DARK Act, if you don't know about it, right? So those things like labeling and banning are almost off the table. I won't say they're impossible, and if somebody here wants to take that on, please see me afterwards, right? But we found that building community partnerships, right? And going into schools and businesses and nonprofit groups and talking to those groups and doing PowerPoint presentations really was very effective. People had no idea their food was different. They didn't know that their food impacted all of these health issues, right? They didn't know where does a GMO show up on my plate on a daily basis. They had no idea. Almost 100% of the corn, like 98% of the corn, and 99% of the soy, canola, 99% of the canola. And that's like an ambiguous number because it's not labeled. We don't really know, but we know that from the industry's records that's actually accurate. So sugar beets, and it was showing up on the plate in every single meal. The average child was having a GMO meal everywhere they went. ever since the day they were born. You know, I can see a couple of you are a little bit older than me, or maybe my age, right? Hey, we got the luxury of being born in a time where things went from always being organic, that was the way things were done, to a place where nothing was organic unless you went out of your way to source it out. Now, I have little kids, right? My youngest daughter is 12 years old. What's going to happen when she's 25 or 30? And what are those kids? What are they going to inherit, you know? Are they going to even have access to organic food? Will there be something called organic food at that time? And I'm going to say with hard work from people like you, that is going to be the case, right? Because we are powerful, and the power starts at the local level, right? And so what we need to do is build those community partners, get out and speak. We do need people that can get out to the media, and we need to start organizing, right? So we do need a lot of practical things in order to be able to accomplish what we want to do. Because what we want to do is really bold, right? We want to say, not only, Monsanto, we don't want you opening your facility, we don't want you at all. Right? We don't want your building, we don't want your chemicals, we don't want your food, we're not going to buy it. We're going to make sure companies don't sell it. We're going to make sure it doesn't hit our plate, a school lunch. It's not sprayed in our parks. It's not sprayed on the roadside. We don't want you at all, right? And if it can happen here, and we get a room full of cool, creative, smart, intelligent, financially stable, articulate people like this very room, and you guys decide this is what you want to keep these guys out in every possible way, there is nothing that can stop you. Absolutely nothing can get in your way. The world is watching Tucson, Arizona. I don't know if you guys know how powerful you are and how much of a statement you can make from the very smallest community, right? Where the people gather together to say, enough is enough. We're going to keep Monsanto out. And I'm going to tell you, it's easier to keep them out than it is to get them out, right? Okay, we learned that all over the country, right? If we muster all of our strength right now, we strategize, we plan, and we put all our engines toward this. We don't give up. We don't lose that idea in our mind's eye, right? That we can get rid of it, right? We stay focused and faithful. It is absolutely possible. The rest of the world is looking for you to do this. They want to have a win. And the people, I'll tell you, I know that many of you in the room made phone calls and wrote letters and showed up at meetings and, made signs. But you should know, too, we just put a little bit of a call out with what little bit of time we had to these national organizations. And I'm telling you, we got people from Michigan calling. We have people from Florida who are so upset about what's happening in Tucson. They can't stand it. They may not be able to do something in their own town. There may not be an organization they can rely on in their own city. But they're looking here. We're giving them clear direction. And I want to say, as much as I like that, Representative Elias, who was very forthright in his opinion about this project, he asked us to call off the dogs. His phones were ringing off the hook, and not just his. Those letters, those calls from all different time zones, that was extremely powerful. They were asking us to stop. And I'm going to turn the mic to you. Are you going to stop? No. Really? Because that sounded pretty weak. Are you? Get ready. Are you going to stop? No. Excellent. That's the kind of attitude it's going to take in order for us to do this. We're going to have specific requests. I need you guys to group up and to start taking on some of these tasks, right? We need community partners. We have a list of community partners that need to be contacted. Media contacts. We need, including bloggers, social media people. We need to get them active on this issue. Political contacts. We are starting a speakers bureau, right? What if we had 5, 6, 10 folks here trained to go out and do a simple PowerPoint that we help you put together? And maybe you're like, horses are my thing. I want to talk about horse health. Great. Do you know how many places here in this valley would love to hear about a short PowerPoint on horse health? We'll give you what you need. We'll give you training. We'll make sure you get through there. We need community organizers, right? To set up talks, set up groups, recruit volunteers. We need an attorney. We need legal counsel, paralegal. We need bookkeepers. We need accountants. We need graphic designers. We need a print shop that's going to work with us, AV equipment. We need a team who's committed to just Marana, right? To do outreach to the school, the PTA, and the community partners there. We need medical contacts. I know that this is like an amazing activist town. Like, Monsanto had no idea what they were rolling into when they came to Marana. They thought cheap dirt. Cheap dirt, people don't care, let's move in and set up shop. There will be no opposition. Little did they know, right? Little did they know what they were stepping into. So we need doctors, we need clinics involved, we need to educate patients. So these are just some of the ideas that we need in order to move forward, right? And I'm getting that, yeah, we got some questions rolling out. Real quick though, I wanted to add one thing. So I wanted to really quickly say this. A lot of the biotech industry is getting pushback from other areas. They're looking to set up shop somewhere else. Kauai, Syngenta just is in the process of selling their facility to the country of China, right? So they're looking to relocate because the pushback in Kauai got too big, right? And cheap dirt, lots of it for sale in Marana, we don't want to turn into a chemical corridor, okay? And we are really, we're holding our own in this fight. We just got that tax in lieu of tax taken off the FTZ, the Foreign Trade Zone application. That was huge. It just cost these guys millions. They are not going to send you a Christmas card. Their shareholders are not happy about that. And actually, that's just the tip of the iceberg for what we got planned for these guys. So again, I just want to say thank you to Zen, thank you to Melissa, thank you to Ann, and let's get some questions rolling out. Come on up for questions, ladies.
Can you still see?
I want to know, please, I know that many people have gone on a vegan diet and become healthy after being very ill. I want to know whether it's necessary to be a vegan in order to eat